Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, Tomcat Stitchery. I'm Whitney and I have a sew the look for you guys today. I haven't done one of these in quite a while and it's time. So I thought sew the looks go along so well with, our theme this month in September has been finding economical ways of sewing, of using our hobby for functionality, to save some money, to make it more accessible to more people, to be kinder on the environment, and all of that. I have said many times this month as well, though, sewing is also a creative outlet, and so never let the lack of functionality stop you from creating, because I think that has so much importance and a big place in our world. So never let it stop you creating. We're just kind of taking a little bit more of a look on, because it is a functional art, you wear it, it's something you put on your body. Can't walk around naked, so it has a couple of different purposes, and it's lovely that we can wear our own art pieces, right? Anyway, I think sew the looks are a great way to not only inspire us, a way for us to find inspiration in the clothing stores around us. I love to window shop. That's one of my favorite things to do, actually, because you're not even concerned about price. You can go look at the really fancy stuff and kind of peek, look at seams, all that kind of stuff, and it's one of my favorite things to do. I love window shopping. But it's also great for inspiration, but also I wanted to talk about how, in theory, we can create clothing with designer looks that are less expensive monetarily than what you can buy in the stores. Now, I will say, obviously, I can go to Target or Old Navy or fill in the blank and buy a t-shirt for a lot less than what I can make it. However, my big argument is quality and fit. But actually, the outfit that we're talking about today, I was able to make for less than what I could buy it ready to wear. So let's talk about the outfit first and what I've created and the patterns I used and yada, 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 and I'll show it to you all on my body. And then we'll talk about kind of the cost of sewing and what that kind of looks like. Okay, so this top, and I've just paired this with ready-to-wear jeans because I also think it's important that not everyone sews for a full-time job like I do. So you can't, and not even I make everything. I buy some things, especially jeans. I love to make jeans, but jeans are not a hard garment to fit on my body, so I can buy those ready to wear and have them fit pretty well most of the time. But so to save time, and sometimes I can get washes that I can't easily replicate at home. I mean, these are white jeans, I could have easily made these, but this just came down to time, and I decided to buy white jeans this spring. So we don't have to make everything. It's absolutely okay if you shop some ready to wear. Just reducing our own carbon footprint by not buying as much might be, just as good as making everything. In fact, it probably is, because we're still consuming, fabric and that sort of thing. So from an environment, we could talk all day about environmental and being environmentally conscious. Are we going to be environmentally perfect? No. We're just all trying to do a little bit better in order to make our world a little bit better, right? We're not looking for perfection in any of this. We're just trying to do a little bit better so that we can leave the world better. Okay. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. No, I'm just kidding. So this is a look from Loft. This was a shirt and jean combination. I loved it for a few reasons. I loved the statement top. I loved the color. And I loved the fact that this is currently on their website for sale, and I love that it's paired with white jeans. I think white jeans often get put away for the cool weather months. So, fall comes and the white jeans get tucked away until the spring. But I love wearing my white jeans year round, and so I love seeing it more and more in stores because I think it's a really great way to freshen things up, and it's a great way if your color palette is not the fall colors. My color palette happens to be the fall colors, but not everyone's is. I have a similar issue. Well, technically I am a spring palette. I'm a coppery spring. If you look at, in Color Guru, I'm a copper spring, which is the warmest of springs. But if you look at those colors with other color consultants, those colors usually fall in the true autumn category. So, or they're very similar. So anyway, I've just noticed that as I've, just kind of looked at other following people on Instagram and stuff like that. So I do have a hard time when pastels are in, because I do need warm, I mean, you can wear warm pastels, but I do need clear colors and not as light. I wear ivory, but you know, the colors that are a little bit more medium toned, not super dark, but kind of medium toned are kind of the best for me. So I totally get it, but I love the fact that these are a little atypical for fall coloring, although the salmon is in my color palette, so we're going with that. So that's kind of what drew me to the outfit. I put it into my 10 ready-to-wear looks to create for fall, and I thought I would go ahead and create it, mostly because I already had the fabric in my stash, and when I saw the shirt, I immediately was like, oh my gosh, I can recreate that look. I've got that fabric. So first of all, we'll talk about the pattern, and then we'll talk about the fabric. Obviously, the white jeans are from J. Crew, I think. I think they're J. Crew, maybe Madewell. Anyway, I bought them in the spring. We won't talk much about them. They're just a slim boyfriend cut jean with a raw hem. Love them. Wear them a ton. They're a little big on me, but I just cinch them in at the waist with a belt, and I actually kind of like them. They're a little bit slouchier. So this, for the top, I have gone with the Itch to Stitch Seychelles top. Now, the top that the girl is wearing obviously has buttons down the front, but I thought I could get a similar feel for that with the V-neck, because what I thought was the most standout of this top was the sleeves. It has kind of the statement sleeve. It's got some detail at the top of the sleeve. Now, I've said on here before, my body type, I am a rectangle with a large bust, so that large bust can make me go apple sometimes. And if you look at me from the back, I'm kind of inverted triangle. So I don't like to play up my shoulders. My shoulders are not overly wide, but my wide bust can make me look top heavy very easily. And I kind of have a wide back. So I tend to steer clear of a lot of detail on my shoulders. It looks great if you have a balanced figure, or if you are smaller on top than you are on bottom. If you're like a pear shape, it looks great. It's a fantastic look. But for those of us that aren't, that are the opposite, it can be difficult. However, when Kenneth made this, who runs Itch to Stitch, when she made the Seychelles pattern and I was a tester for it, I was a little leery of it because of the pleated detail on the shoulder, but she has cut it in just enough so that the pleating sits in. Anyway, I think it looks lovely and it looks very balanced. So I knew that I wanted to use this pattern because I knew that the sleeve would not get away from me and that it was a style that I already liked in my body. So that's another great thing. When you find ready-to-wear that you love, being able to pick out why you love it and then take maybe just those elements into something. So if I were to go into Loft to buy this shirt, those sleeves would probably be way too much on me. The Loft shirt is a cotton modal blend, so it would have a little bit more structure. This is a viscose challis. And modal is a similar to like a viscose or a rayon or tencel type of fabric, lyocell. It's all kind of in the same family. But the cotton content there would have given it a little bit more structure. So I would have looked like a linebacker. And because of the buttons, there's no way. The size I would have had to buy in order for those buttons to close would have had those sleeves even further off my shoulder, and I would have looked even wider than normal, even if it were fitting me correctly on the shoulder. So long story short, I would not be able to buy this shirt in a store. So number one, there's the cost right there. I couldn't even buy this shirt and have it look good on me because of the fit issues that I have with my upper body. So I've gone with the Seychelles because I knew I liked the sleeve on me. It gave the V-neck, gives the same look as that button down without it actually having to be buttoned down. Although, to be fair, I could have made this button down and it would have fitted properly because I can do full bust adjustments on my patterns, but I just left it as is. And then it's just a woven t-shirt, which is basically what that the top is, and I just think it looks great with the white jeans. I did the size 8 with a D cup, double D. I did a size 8 with the double D cup because I'm carrying more weight right now. We're sorting it out, but my bust, I put weight on in my bust in midsection first, and then up through here. Like you'll see it in my face, bust, right here, upper arms, and then it goes on down here much later. It's like, I'm like a man. But anyway, so I did go ahead and do the double D. Most of the time I'm an 8 with a D cup in Itch to Stitch patterns, but I did go ahead and do the double D on this one because my bust is rather large for me even at the moment. So that's the size I made. I did shorten the body by 1 inch, which is what I typically do with Love Notions patterns. I have a very short torso, so that just keeps the proportion in line with me. And those are the only alterations that I made. This fabric, like I mentioned, is a 100% viscose challis. This is a See You at 6 fabric. I got it from Style Maker Fabric, and it was in their remnant section. So this was they do still have this fabric, and it is for sale for the normal price, but this was actually, I think it was like 1.5 yards of it around there, was in their selvage end area of their website. Definitely go check that area every now and again. She'll send out to her newsletter subscribers, you know, hey, I've just dumped a whole bunch of, you know, go check out the selvage ends. Because there'll be either clearanced out fabric or into bolt and that kind of stuff in that area. And December or January, beginning of the year, she had a sale on that category. It was like an extra 15% off. So it was already reduced for the into bolt sale, and then she did an extra 15% off. So I think I got this probably for a pretty good price. The fabric does retail for $18.99 a yard. So the ready-to-wear top from Ann Taylor is $65, and that does not include tax. So right now you could buy that top for $65 at Ann Taylor, or I could make this for, we'll round up to $20 a yard for taxes and shipping, so $40 basically, maybe a little bit more. And then the cost of the pattern, which I don't include cost of patterns in my cost of garments, because most of the time I make it multiple times. If it were something really specific, and I mentioned this in my organization, if it were a pattern that I wasn't gonna keep because I only needed one in my closet, for instance, I would include the cost of the pattern in that. For this one, gosh, and I was a tester for this, so I was given the pattern because I was a tester, but I think if you had bought it on sale, it would have been $9.50, and then I think that it's $12 full price. So even if you were to buy the pattern full price right now, you're still, you know, it's $52. So you're still, math. You're still $13 under what the Ann Taylor pattern is, or Ann Taylor top is, and you have saved, you've got the pattern, so you can use the pattern many times over. I was thinking 2 yards would definitely get you this top, but it may just be 1.5 yards, so it could actually be even cheaper. I should have looked at that, but I didn't. I was just like, oh, $18.99 a yard, so about $20 a yard. I think in my head when I'm buying fabric for blouses, I would have bought 2 yards, but again, I bought this off the selvage, so it was just what was left, and I had enough. I think 1.5 yards would probably get, it's wide fabric, would probably be enough to get you this top, so even less. You'd be spending like $30 on fabric, and then 12 with the pattern, so 42. So now you're really coming in under. That's like $23 under. I hope I did that math right. I think I did. Anyway, so when looking at things from this point, like I mentioned before, I could not buy this Ann Taylor loft top because it wouldn't, there's no way it would fit me. The buttons, the shoulders, it would have overwhelmed me. I could never have just gone in and purchased this top. Sometimes I can have a chance in the petite section because then things will be shorter, but even still, the buttons are a no-go with ready to wear for me. So that's one part of cost of sewing, right? I can make things that fit me perfectly, or I say perfectly, that fit me close to perfect. We're not going for perfection again. We're just going for as good as possible, right? We're going for good, great, not perfect. I think perfection can get in the way of a lot of us in the creative process, and I hate that. I hate to see that when perfection just stalls people in their tracks when it comes to sewing. It makes me sad because my sewing is not anywhere close to perfect, and I usually just embrace the oopsies and wear them as is, because again, even with some of the oopsies, they're still a ton better than what's made in most ready-to-wear stores. You know, you don't have seams unraveling, you don't have you know, the delicate fabrics where you get a seam that just shreds because it's just serged closed. You know, there's no, it's like a 3-thread serger that's closed it up and the fabric is frayed. The other cost that I want to talk about is environmental, a little bit. I'm by no means an expert on this subject. Again, I'm just trying to do the best that I can and be conscious about it. I am not perfect. But I would say when it comes to ready-to-wear clothing, a lot of times, I mean, they're making a lot of one thing and going by numbers, you know, to anticipate that they will sell things out. But we know that that rarely happens because otherwise, I know outlet stores have their own lines too, but you know, the clearance racks wouldn't be nearly as full as they are. And you know, you go in and you see a clearance rack in a store and you see a lot of one item that clearly wasn't a good seller. Well, that's probably the same in most of the stores for that item. And then you have all of that waste that I don't even know what happens to it. It goes to donated to places, or it gets, I don't know, trashed, sent off to third world countries, which then they get stuck with all of our trash. It's just a horrible, horrible cycle. I realize that there are occasions, and I do buy ready-to-wear clothing, again, on occasion, but trying to minimize that and speak with my dollar as much as possible. Now, I will say the same can be said for textiles and fabrics. I think we can be more conscious in purchasing the, you know, the OXO, what is it, the certified fabrics where they've used low chemical. Is it the what is it called? The Evercrew, which is the lyocell or rayon that they have used with recycled chemicals, because rayon does have to be chemically processed, even though it is a natural fiber, in order to turn it into a wearable textile. But it's where they're using recycled chemicals, so it's much less harmful on the environment. So there's definitely ways that we can be much more intentional about the fabric that we buy. We can buy overstock stuff that is from the ready-to-wear stores that have then, you know, not been sold, or they didn't use it all, because that's the other part of it. There's a lot of scraps that come off of these big lines of clothing that just go into landfills. Sometimes you can pick those up actually in fabric stores. That's usually what dead stock is. It was fabric that was left over from some designer or some store's line of clothing. So there are definitely ways, thrifting, that we can get our fabric and have a little bit less of an impact. Also, when we buy our 2 yards or yard and a half or whatever, and we have scraps, we can still use those. We're not necessarily throwing those away. Although I will say, I do throw some scraps away. I do not, or recycle. I do recycle them, but I do, you know, recycle some scraps. I don't reuse everything. But the Closet Core has their puff that you can make up and then stuff with your scraps, and there's dog beds you can use for your scraps, you know, the things that are too small to do anything with. There's some great scrap busting projects. I use a lot of cottons and stuff for my pocket linings, which are a lot of fun. So there's ways I feel like that we can be less impactful on the environment because we sew. Are we perfect? No, but we can do less. So that's kind of where I'm going with, yes, you can, sewing can be an expensive hobby, and it can be an expensive hobby as you want it to be. You can thrift most of your materials. I can buy sewing notions very inexpensively from Wawak, so even that is a much reduced cost. There are sewing machines galore at estate sales and garage sales. Yes, sometimes you have to take those in to have them fixed up, but I think my my vintage machine that I got pre-pandemic, I got it for free because it was completely rusted solid. And I took it to him, and it was less than $100 that he charged me to change out the cord on it, you know, let it sit in a kerosene bath for, it was 10 weeks because it happened right before lockdown, and then everything was locked down. It was, yeah. So, and that's a wonderful machine. So I still need to talk about that on the channel. But there are ways that you can even find really good sewing machines. Honestly, those vintage sewing machines are workhorses. And if you can get someone to put a little love and get those working again for you, your grandchildren will have them. They're just, yeah, you can hardly go wrong with a good vintage machine. It's mostly made out of metal parts. So as I'm saying, it's just a hobby that can be very accessible to a lot more, to a lot of people, more than you might think. Now, it can be an expensive hobby, but if you're creating, you know, if you only like sewing with cashmere and silks, yeah, that could be a very expensive hobby. But could you buy those cashmere and silk garments for that price at a store? Probably not. Maybe, but probably not. So it's all about, you know, where your standard is, where your kind of perspective is. Yes, I can go to Target and buy clothes cheaper than I can make them, but my clothes don't get the holes in them. And I wear them for many, many seasons, and I can pick the colors I'm making my stuff in. So I am not a slave to the color trends that come out every single year. I have my own personal color palette. That's what I sew from. That's what I love. I have a cohesive closet, and it's one of the biggest perks about sewing. Okay, I think that that's it. I will step off my soapbox here. It just really makes me angry when I hear people say, oh, so, you know, see the reels and stuff on Instagram, or hear someone say, oh, I thought sewing was going to be so much cheaper than buying my clothes. Well, it's not. It's a really expensive hobby. Well, it can be, but there's also ways you can thrift your fabric and, you know, find really great machines for next to nothing and, you know, just put a little money, or if you've got someone handy. I'm honestly on the lookout for a vintage sewing machine that isn't working properly, and I would like to give it to my son as a project for him this winter to take apart and then clean it and get it put back together, because he is so mechanically minded. I think that would be an excellent, it'd be like a really big puzzle slash Lego type thing for him to do, but without there being like, I don't want him working on my own machines that I love. So one that maybe he could get working, and then we could, you know, donate that to someone, or yeah, give that to someone that's needing a sewing machine. So anyway, if anyone in the Annapolis area is watching this and has a sewing machine that they want to get rid of, or has seen one or something, it doesn't have to work. And I'm talking the older the better, just because my mother-in-law's sewing machine from the mid-70s I took in, and it had a couple of plastic parts that were brittle and broke. And so now we're looking at maybe 3D printing. Again, my son's in an engineering class, but the plastic parts are really hard to find sometimes when those break. But if you have an all-metal machine, let me know. I would like to give that to my son. But yeah, it's a great hobby. I want everyone to know what a wonderful hobby it is, and how it can have so many great facets and aspects. Not only is it creative, it's also functional, and it makes you feel great in many ways. Mentally, physically, emotionally, and financially. Alright guys, that's all I've got for today. I hope you've enjoyed this one. The plan is to do another Sew the Look in October, and then a third in November. I probably won't bang on about the cost of sewing in those. I'll just show you the pieces that I've made. The next two have multiple pieces that I'm making, so there'll be more to talk about. Alright, because I need more to talk about, right? Okay, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Friday, I'm going to be showing you, we're going to go on this adventure together, how to set up a shop on Stashify, and we're going to go through and load up my very first fabric onto Stashify to sell, and I'm just going to take you guys all along on the process. So if you were a little nervous about how to do that, hopefully I can, watching me do it maybe might take the fear away from doing that. So then you can go through and do some purging, but then give the fabric to people that really, really want it, and make a little extra cash as well. Or, if you don't want to mess with it, donating it to Stashify, but knowing that it will go to a good home, as opposed to just taking it to your regular thrift store. Okay, that's all I have. I hope you guys have a great week, and I'll see you again on Friday. Bye!